Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tipped. My name is Julian, and this is the schedule episode for the 2023-2024 season. This is a very important episode, guys, because you're going to want to know which teams have the most amount of back-to-backs, so you probably want to avoid those goalies a little bit more. And you want to know which teams have the most off nights, because obviously that's a big thing in fantasy, right? You want to have players that are going to be playing on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sundays when there are not a lot of games, so you can almost always slot them in your lineup. The more you can slot people in your lineup, the more games you can play on any given week, gives you a better chance of winning every single week. And at the end of this video, I'm going to talk about the playoff schedules as well a little bit, and talk about which teams have the best and the worst playoff schedules for the fantasy playoffs. Before we jump into it, guys, please leave a like if you haven't already and hit that subscribe button, guys. More than half of you guys that watch this channel are not subscribed. Trust me, guys, you're going to want to be subscribed. I have a lot of really good content for you guys scheduled for this pre-season. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. And yes, I know, guys, that this is not the ideal environment for me to be filming. I'm hoping this is the last episode that I'm filming while sick. So hopefully next episode I'll be able to film back in my studio, back with top audio quality. All right, guys, as you can see from this chart provided by NHL to Seattle, the New Jersey Devils have the most back-to-back games with 14, which is significantly a decent amount of back-to-back games. The Seattle Kraken have the least amount with 7 back-to-back games. Therefore, Philip Grubauer, as a goalie, he's going to be playing a lot of games, right? Unless he really sucks, which is possible because he has done that in the past couple years. But as long as he plays decently, Philip Grubauer should get a lot of starts this year. There's only 7 back-to-backs. So Joey Daccord is not going to get a lot of starts from the back-to-backs. So Philip Grubauer, even though he hasn't been the best historically, might not be the worst pick super late in your draft this year for you guys. And that goes for the New Jersey Devils as well. Akira Schmidt is someone who's kind of fighting for starts in New Jersey. Looked really good last year. So this gives kind of an edge to Akira Schmidt because we know he's probably going to get at least 14 starts this year as long as he stays healthy. And if he plays well during those starts, it gives him more of a chance to get more starts in the future. So Vanacek, I still do like him this year. I still think he's a starter in New Jersey, but Akira Schmidt's definitely someone you have to keep your eye on. Washington, Minnesota, Ottawa, Carolina are also teams that have a good amount of back-to-backs, 15 and 14 back-to-backs throughout the season. And then Toronto, Montreal, and Columbus have 13 back-to-backs, which is also pretty significant. Now, there are also the Winnipeg Jets, Florida Panthers, Colorado Avalanche, and Calgary Flames, which also have very little back-to-backs, 8 back-to-backs. So Jacob Markstrom, as long as he plays well, could be good this year. And then Vancouver, Nashville, and Arizona also only have 9 back-to-backs. So Thatcher Demko is in a good spot this year. As for the off days, guys, this is important because you're going to want to draft players that play on off nights. Not only players, but you're going to want to draft some players that play on off nights because that way you're going to be maximizing the amount of games in your schedule. And as usual, the same as every year, the Anaheim Ducks have the most off days or off nights, however you want to call it. The Anaheim Ducks play on 43 off days. So they're playing on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday very frequently. So that's something you might want to keep in mind. If you want to draft a third just natural center as like Trevor Zegras or something, that's not the worst idea in the world because he's probably going to be often playing on off nights and won't be on your bench too often. So that's something you can consider. And then there's also the Chicago Blackhawks, Arizona Coyotes, and Washington Capitals also have a decent amount of off nights this year. Honestly, the spread this year is pretty good. A lot of teams have a lot of off nights, so I wouldn't be too worried about this year. But there are a few teams that really don't have a lot of off nights, and those teams are the Nashville Predators with only 20, the Tampa Bay Lightning with 21, the Montreal Canadiens with 21, Vancouver Canucks 22, and then Ottawa and Calgary with only 24. Now, for the fantasy playoffs, I do think it's a little bit too early to be thinking about it, but it's something you can keep in mind a little bit because you do have to make the fantasy playoffs to actually play in the fantasy playoffs. So you can't build your team around the fantasy playoffs quite yet because that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You actually have to get your way there. Now, in week 23, if you have a standard fantasy playoffs, which is week 23, 24, and 25, which I strongly suggest don't end your playoffs in week 26, there are no teams that have really a bad schedule. There's no teams that play only 2 games, which is good. It means it's a fair match for your first week of the playoffs. And then there's a few teams that have 4 games: Buffalo, Carolina, Edmonton, New Jersey, the Islanders, Ottawa, Philadelphia, Seattle, Tampa Bay, Washington, and Winnipeg. So quite a few teams that play 4 games, but the rest play 3. So it's a pretty fair fight no matter what. The next week, week 24, which could be the first week of your playoffs if you are ending in week 26, which I don't suggest, there are 4 teams that play only 2 games. The New Jersey Devils, the Minnesota Wild, the New York Islanders, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And there are 2 teams that play 4 games, which is good. The Ducks and the Vegas Golden Knights. Now in week 25, which should be your fantasy finals, there is only one team with a bad schedule, and that's the Vegas Golden Knights with only 2 games. So it's not super ideal for you. But there are a whole bunch of teams that play 4 games, and the rest play 3 games. The teams that play 4 games are Columbus, Colorado, Edmonton, Florida, Los Angeles, Minnesota, Montreal, Nashville, New Jersey, New York Islanders, New York Rangers, Ottawa, Pittsburgh, San Jose, St. Louis, Tampa Bay, and Washington Capitals. So honestly, a pretty good fantasy final there. If you are ending in week 26 for whatever reason, there are no teams that play less than 4 games. So 4 games is the minimum because it's a double week. So don't worry too much for your fantasy finals there. There are 5 teams, though, that play 6 games. Those teams are Calgary, Edmonton, Seattle, Toronto, and the Vegas Golden Knights. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. If you enjoyed the content today, please drop a like and hit that subscribe button. Honestly, it would mean the world to me. And honestly, you're going to want to be subscribed for all the content I have in store for you. Next video, hopefully, will be in my studio because I am feeling a little bit better. I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.